Professor Asim Duttaroy is an Indian-born American medical scientist who since 2001 has been working as a professor at the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Oslo. His research contributions have led to several industrial developments worldwide, and he serves as editor-in-chief at the peer-reviewed journal Food and Nutrition Research. He will, of course, not give a talk on nutrition, but follow today's symposium and give a talk on Satya Varta. Please welcome on stage Professor Asim Duttaroy.
Namaste. Your Excellency, Ambassador Kishan Kumar, our local MP, Gulati, and ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I will little bit veer away whatever talk so far. I would rather talk as a scientist, the evolution of truth and reality. And I will bring here three important personalities of the world at that time: Einstein, Gandhi, and Tagore, and how they reconcile what sort of India we'll have, and how we are going to rule each other in a democratic way, in a way that we respect each other and develop. So, because of lack of time, and rather more, I will not be professor today, I will be reading what I wrote on that. So, I was told to talk about Satya Varta. So, I'll be talking about truth, evolution, and what truth means today, what was meant 100 years ago to Gandhi. So, of all moral principles, Gandhi placed truth as the first and foremost. He called it the sovereign principle, which included numerous other principles too. It did not merely imply truthfulness in speech, but in thought also. And quote, and not only the relative truth of our conception, but the absolute truth, the eternal principle, that he equated the truth with God. We learn from his introduction to the book, The Story of My Experiments with Truth, that Gandhi's search for truth was a search for personal liberation. You have to remember that. He had not only really intended to write an autobiography, he tells us, only to tell the story of his numerous experiments with truth. But as my life consists of nothing but these experiments, it is true that the story will take the shape of an autobiography. He equated God with truth, as he says, I worship God as truth only. I have not yet found him, but I am seeking after him. I am prepared to sacrifice the things dearest to me in pursuit of this quest. Often in my progress, I have had faint glimpses of the absolute truth, the God, and daily the conviction is growing upon me that the above is real and all else is artificial. Therefore, Gandhi's conception of truth has obviously not the common meaning attributed to it, for there were divine and philosophical dimensions to it. It can perhaps be said that the predominant factor in molding his vision of truth was his deep attachment to the epic and morality, Ramcharitamanas, written by Tulsidas, and his faith in the Ram Nama, such as Ram Nam Satya Hai. Now, what is truth? The word Satya is derived from Sat, which means being. Nothing is or exists in reality except truth. That is why Sat or truth is perhaps the most important name of God. In fact, it is more correct to say that truth is God than to say God is truth. The implication of the phrase of the believer, not simply that God exists, it must also connote that the essence of divinity is ultimate reality and that God carries out his promises without serving and expect his followers to do so likewise. Gandhi equated that truth with God, with ultimate reality that pervaded the entire universe. He thus had a unifying view of life and could look at life in totality. Thus Gandhi's conception of truth and the universal reality stands as a refreshing challenge and alternative before the world. The slightest irregularity in those in morality, sanitary, and social and political life is a sign of spiritual poverty. It is a sign of inattention, neglect of duty. Thus, unifying view of life was one of the ideas which evolved with Gandhi's deeper and deeper pursuit of the concept of truth. An appropriate way not to conclude the evolution of Gandhi's concept of truth would be to quote his own estimate in this regard. In a reply to a correspondent, he wrote, quote, "I represent no new truths. I endeavor to follow and represent truth as I know it. I do claim to throw a new light on many old truths." As Gandhi's interest widened, as he got older, he became more concerned with the question of truth. Gradually, he was able to transcend these early aberrations. His meditations and search led him to one important conclusion, quote, "One thing took deep root in me," he says, "the conviction that morality is the basis of all things and that truth is the substance of all morality. Truth became my sole objective. It began to grow in a magnitude every day, and my definition of it has been ever widening." For instance, in Ramayana, he said, King Dasharatha carried out his promise of granting a boon to his wife Koiki at the cost of his life and his family's happiness. The ideal of sticking to the truth, the word, the morality shines bright in him, and it is not at all improbable that it was imprinted on young Gandhi and that he carried out whole life as an exemplary style. The reflection of Gandhi's concept of truth in his social action is also found in his persistent emphasis on the purity of means to attain desired goals. His propagation of the methods of ahimsa or non-violence, civil resistance, and honorable cooperation exemplify this. His message for revolutionizing the social order with this means was relevant not only to India but the whole world. But truth may appear to one person will often appear as an untruth to another person. But how is one to realize this truth? How to experience the truth, which may be likened to the philosopher's stone or the cow of plenty? Is true. Tagore and Einstein went deep into this in last century. The conversation on this issue between Tagore and Einstein, the two giants of their century, was as though two planets were engaged in a chat. Their conversation dealt with the truth and the nature of the reality, with Einstein wondering if truth and beauty existed independently of man, and if there would be no human beings anymore. Einstein offered as hypothesis the apple of Belvedere, the place they are meeting, would no longer be beautiful. Tagore said that truth was realized through man. If there be some truth which has no sensuous or rational relation to human mind, it will ever remain as nothing so long as we remain human beings. Truth, the perfect comprehension of the universal mind. We individuals approach it through our own mistakes, blunders, through our accumulated experiences, through our illumined consciousness. How otherwise can we know the truth? Evolution of brain and the dopaminergic system that started from agriculture time plays a huge role in the development and set of moral in human beings, and still going on. And truth depends on cognition, scientific developments, time, and inherent analysis of power of the seekers. In addition, human life has two aspects. One is the discipline of truth, another is the fullness of expression. We need to balance between these two. One cannot exist without the other, that we live in equilibrium of the two aspects. And Gandhi gave this world this moral of weapon, the gift of the light, and others gives the expression of thought. You need an independence in order to understand the truth. Gandhi started his life as an ordinary common person with extraordinary convictions, who sold his wife's jewelry to study law in London and returned as a barrister, but because of his moral uprightness and poor articulation could not become successful in his profession, and like thousands of poverty-stricken